Hi everyone, this is Sweta Ragni from Canada, live on YouTube and our LinkedIn channel, plus the Facebook as well. Go ahead and subscribe. And today we're going to talk about adaptability. It is very, there's a thin line between, being able to adapt and being able to not adapt. So let's talk about it today. I have an expert today who is a best-selling author, and she's done so many things, varieties of things. She's recruited, she's managed people, and she's going to talk about it. I would introduce you to Sangeeta Bhatnagar. I'm going to bring you live, and she's going to talk all about it and share this to everybody out there. Normally, those people who just got a job and who's going through the interview as well, it's going to be amazing session today. All right. We all need it. Sangeeta, welcome to my show. Tell us about yourself, who you are.
Hi. Well, thank you for having me, Shweta. So yeah, my name is Sangeeta Bhatnagar, and I'm here in Toronto, Ontario, Canada. And basically I work with people. So welcome to so many of you from around the world. And what I do is I help find top talent. I place them in companies, and then I work on the retention, recruitment, development side. So one area that I'm just fascinated with is how people grow, succeed, prosper. And I know many of you have probably heard about emotional intelligence. So adaptability is taking that further. And I want to share with you. So I'm going to come with the assumption that Shweta, is correct, that we're going to talk as if they're new hires in a company. Yeah.
Yes, we can talk about anything. So we're going to start with, you know what? I know that you were amazing putting a deck together. So I'm going to go, and then, you go and talk about it for 10 to 15 minutes. And we're going to take your Q&A at the end. We're going to be here for 30 minutes or so. Go ahead and ask all those questions. Sangeeta would be answering that question for you. For now, let's go and focus on deck. And these are streamed on YouTube channel as well. Go ahead and subscribe as well if you want to go back and watch the replay. Okay, so I'm going to share the screen. Go ahead, all yours.
Okay, great. So what my intention today is, and I always like to start with intention, is to empower you to future-proof yourself by increasing your adaptability. The marketplace is changing. The future of work is changing. What we can control is ourselves. So you want to future-proof yourself. So whether you're applying for a job, you're in the interview process, or you're a new hire, and you want to learn how to get recognized as a new hire. So we're going to go through all of that. And I want you to think about the importance of adaptability. So there was a LinkedIn workplace article, I think it's from 2020. But as they said, as change is accelerating, the need to future-proof is more important now than ever. Adaptability was named the #1 skill, and it's still in the top 5 skills. So you might think, well, what exactly is adaptability? You might think you're already adaptable, but there's many dimensions. And I really want you to consider some of these, because it comes to a lot of your mindset. Okay? So I want you to think about what's your competitive edge. There's many, I can see so many people right here. There's so many people applying for certain jobs. And then from that pool of people, they'll go up, and it gets more people and less jobs. But those that continue to grow and evolve have a competitive edge, and that is being adaptable, having a mindset. And I want you to think, what is adaptability? So it is the capacity to adjust one's thoughts and behaviors. And in order to respond to uncertainty, new information, or circumstances. So think about the last 2 years, right? Wasn't there a lot of adapting we had to do? Maybe if you were working in an office, you had to go remote, you had to learn technology, you maybe had to have many people in one home doing schooling and work or looking for a job. Maybe if you were planning to move to a country, that got put on hold. So we had to change, grow, adapt. We had to have a different outlook. And that's the whole picture of what is adaptability. It's not just only going with the flow, but it's also adjusting and having a certain mindset. So let's have this understanding that adapting to situations and other outside factors, like for example, COVID was an outside factor. It's not easy, but adapting always means change, and it's not guaranteed to be pretty, but it is something that the differentiator to future proof yourself it's an absolutely required soft skill. So in this study of adaptability, there's different dimensions. And so it sounds like, oh, adaptability, I'm adaptable, but we can break it down. And one dimension, there's three, but I'm just talking about one, and that's an ability dimension. And the good news is, regardless of where you are today, ability, and you'll see how I'm going to go across, this can be learned. So regardless of what happened in the past, it's okay. We can keep it there. And we can choose to learn new behaviors, thoughts, actions, skills. So some of these sub dimensions within this framework, there's grit. You know what grit is, right? Being able to persevere, push through regardless of the setbacks. There's resilience, how you bounce back once you've been given a setback. And who hasn't had to have resilience in the last 2-3 years, right? So that's an ability to bounce back. The main focus I want to talk about now, you're going to hear, is that growth mindset. So growth, you probably have heard of this. So it's not a fixed mindset saying, oh, that's just the way I am, and I'm not good at this, and they did this to me. That's having a fixed mindset. Growth mindset is, it's okay. I don't know how to do this, but I can learn it. I can go out of my comfort zone. And you don't have that mentality where people do things to you. You have that ownership. You're willing to what? Grow. Growth mindset. It's someone who tends to be more on the positive side. So, like, say, for example, if you're not getting a job, I would ask you to evaluate, say, okay, what can I tweak here? What can I control here? There are some elements to what you can control. Or maybe you're starting a new job. Wow, how can I have people recognize me? How can my team leader know that I'm doing this? So that growth mindset saying, okay, I don't know how to do this job, but guess what? I'm going to study extra hard. I'm going to learn how to do it. That's that growth mindset. And that's a huge, huge differentiator for future proofing yourself, because the job of 10 years ago will not be here in 10 years. Technology is here. We have AI. We have so many things. So the person who will succeed in the future is that one who can continuously evolve and embrace rapid change. So from growth mindset, we see mental flexibility. What is mental flexibility? Well, it's the ability to have two contradictory thoughts happening and being able to see different perspectives. And so you might have learned something 10 years ago, and maybe that's how it was done. but then a new boss or a new company says, this is how we do it. You would need to be flexible enough to see their perspective. Sometimes we think the way we have learned things is the right way. Well, that's just the way I've always done it, right? We think that's the right way. But we need to be mentally flexible that maybe in one country it works this way, or one province, one state, maybe it works like that, but in another place it doesn't. And so I see the people when I recruit, the people who are most mentally flexible, open-minded, they tend to really prosper. They join a company and I can see like a year or 18 months later, they continuously improve. They have the growth mindset. They're seeking to learn. So this one next point is my favorite. And I will talk the rest of the time on this. It is called unlearning. That sounds funny. Unlearning. We're always talking about learning. But a lot of times we have learned something, but it may not be serving us today and now. So I'd love for you to think, what is something I learned 5 years ago that is not serving me now? And that very thing is what we need to unlearn. And that ability to unlearn is connected to the mental flexibility, that growth mindset, but that will take you to the future because we need to learn, unlearn, and then learn again. And that cycle of being able to unlearn is a huge differentiator. And if you can take anything away from this session, put a star beside unlearn, underline it. Need to unlearn habits, thoughts, skills that are not serving me today. And I'd like you to think, maybe some of you say, well, I'm not a people person. I can't do that. Well, I ask you to unlearn that comment. Sorry, I read the word comment here. I saw comment in the notes here. So unlearn that thought, that idea. Unlearn it. Or what if you think, well, I'm horrible in sales. Well, I'm going to ask you to, we learned that somewhere. Now we need to unlearn it. What if you had a habit or a tendency? Well, I'm going to ask you to start to unlearn it so you can learn something new that works well for you. Okay, good. I would write that. And then if you can walk away understanding growth mindset. And after we're done this call, you can go and read about it and all the traits that belong to growth mindset, put them into your vessel, put them in here where you can start programming yourself to have that growth mindset. And we all have areas where we need to keep improving. So, I know I'm giving you a lot of information in a short amount of time, but if you can walk away with understanding growth mindset, because who do you like to be around? People who are optimistic, positive, take ownership. You like those kind of people, right? Are always willing to learn. Well, so do employers, so do recruiters, so do people who give referrals. So you are future-proofing yourself. When you show an ability to unlearn old thoughts, actions, behaviors, you are able to be adaptable for what's coming ahead for the future. So your key thing is here, and then I'll take some questions. And, I didn't want to be deck heavy here. So if you can say, I'm going to learn to unlearn. And it sounds funny, but it is golden. Learn to unlearn. And when you can do that, you're consistently going to be ready for whatever is in the future. And technology does impact everything we're doing, so we don't have to embrace it. I want to applaud all of you. Just the fact that you're on this session on LinkedIn Live and you're on Facebook and everything, you are embracing technology. You are learning and you're unlearning maybe something you did in the past. So you're already different, and you're showing that you're advanced and embracing things. So kudos to all of you for making the time. So I want you to walk in. You might want to write this down. Why I'm talking about unlearning so much with so much passion. Because the ability to be able to adapt to adverse circumstances, which happens to everyone, to unlearn old skills and learn new ones is perhaps the most important soft skill you can possess. And I'm sure many of you are hearing, oh, the soft skills you need are listening and multitasking. And, you hear all of this. But that ability to not be stuck in your ways and to unlearn, it encompasses so many other skills. So you can walk away knowing that's one of the most important soft skills. And this, if you focus on it, you'll understand that unlearning helps you develop that ability to change and adapt ourselves. So I know people are from all over the world, so many amazing cultures, so many desires, goals, dreams. So the more you can keep that positive mindset for the future, but understanding that that also takes adapting to wherever you want to go or whatever you want to do. I just wanted to leave that with you. I don't want to give so much information. And then I do have some resources that if you need it, I'll send it to Shweta and she can share it with you. I'll just stop sharing here. And I'm happy to take any questions so we can really connect with all of you and not, bore you with the deck here. But I just wanted to share some key insights because I know if you're a visual learner, you need to see a little bit of something, the foundation. So is there anything that anyone wanted to know that I can help you with? Or Shweta, do you have anything?
Yes, I do have a couple of questions following up on
Okay.
that. I know you brought the great point about, being adaptable. Can you share a couple of tips as a new hire or someone who's, who's just got a job and they just started a new job? How do you be adaptable in that environment? What are the steps that you recommend?
Right. So, I was taught this very early on. Come early, stay late. Sounds old school. But when you're and not necessarily stay late past your shift, but you don't have to be the first one out the virtual door. Okay. I don't know how many people are working on site right now. I know most people are still virtual, but that when you show up early, what do you have time to do? You have time to get your head in the right space. You have time to read whatever notes are left for you or updates, and then leaving late, not, I don't want to say stick around, but not being the first one out the door, the mindset that you're not just looking at a clock. So that affects your mindset. Under promise and over deliver is a mindset. So that's also part of adaptability, having that growth mindset. So for a new hire, wherever there's an opportunity, virtual or live, to share and participate, do so. If there's an opportunity to learn something new, even if it's off work hours, do so. Because that's your differentiator. There might be, for example, in my industry, there could be 100 people, 50 people, 20 people in a new hire class. How do you differentiate yourself, especially virtually? Well, that's showing that initiative. Wherever you can show that you have mental flexibility, that you're willing to grow, and show that you have something else, a different energy, something positive. And that, you know what, you might have had a different profession in one country, but you're maybe moving to another country. And I'm in Canada, so I'm saying Canada. Okay. Well, then that understanding of, okay, I want to learn all the things about country A where I want to go. That shows adaptability, right? So I know, like, my parents came from India, and right away my dad started reading about maple syrup and hockey and just different things to, learn more about Oh, what's in Canada? What about these seasons that we have? Those are all different mindsets that put you in a position to win. So for a new hire, go above and beyond. Whatever you can do, out of your comfort zone, no matter what.
That's a very good point that I wanted to. We'll take Daniel. She's going to answer that question quickly later. So, question for you. You brought the very valid point. So let's go back to the immigrant, right? Newcomers in Canada. I think the adaptability is something that we all struggle with. I struggle with it, and then we're not like, we don't want to be exposed to like, hockey game. We don't want to be exposed to maple syrup. I didn't even try it until like, 10 years later when my kids actually wanted to try it on. I was not really like, there to adapt to it. I was like, this is me. I want to stay like this, right? What are your tips for those people who feel like, what, if I change something, if I want to try something, I might change everything about me. What are your tips to be adaptable in Canada as a newcomer?
So I can only speak because I was born here. So I can only speak from what I was taught by my dad. And my dad came when there weren't a lot of immigrants. So I can only share from that lens. Okay. So I just want to share that.
Or Sangeeta, let me stop you right there. You can actually share that as well because you've been recruiting too, and I'm pretty sure you recruit some of the newcomers as well,
Yes.
right? Like,
Yes.
what have you seen and what do
Okay.
you recommend as well? Let's go from there.
Okay. So I always recommend that, like I totally understand being attached to one's country and culture and having pride. Totally get it. But I'll tell you one thing, what my dad taught me back then is that you can choose to have the best of both worlds. Because there's no one country that's perfect. And there's great traits in some country and not so great in some countries or culture. If you're looking to work in Canada, I would say embrace the awesomeness that we have. And so, for example, when I do recruitment, I know a lot of people will say, like they'll come right out and say, well, in my back home, I was this, and I only want to do this. I'm like, okay, but we have to start somewhere. Can I invite you to explore this kind of career path? And the ones that say, I will, yes, I'm here for this purpose. I'll do this. I'm willing to learn that. I'm like, oh my God, you're amazing. So 2 years ago, I recruited someone who just had landed maybe 4 days earlier, still unpacking, still in suitcases, and not even settled into an apartment yet. They landed a job starting at $48,000 a year because of their mindset. And I just found out maybe 6 weeks ago, they became a supervisor. And that was all because of that mindset. And they said, you know what? I don't care. I was a vice president in wherever country they were from, a vice president there. I have to adapt to here. And I know that being kind to people, being kind, being humble goes no matter what country you're in. And so I was so thrilled to see this brand new person, 4 days in the country, job, and under 2 years later, a supervisor. And that was because of the mindset. And I even told them, they thanked me. And I said, it's not me, it's you. It's your mindset, your determination, and you're willing to unlearn all the status that you had. You unlearn those behaviors and mindset to move forward.
That's a very valid point because I do work with a lot of newcomers in Canada and immigrant as well. I think the role that you had, there's nothing wrong with it, trying to learn, because sometimes what happens is even though you're a VP in some countries, that might not translate exactly the same way. But in order to get in there, try it. You don't have to step down if you don't want to. But I think I've seen a lot of people, they try to go on to learning the role itself because later on, they are going to be managing those people and they earn respect. It's like when you get down and get your hands dirty, then when you're on like, that leadership role, then I personally feel like they actually respect you more because now you've tried it and their role. Now you can empathize as well, right? That's a really good point. And then leadership is all about, not actually, delegating only, but learning as well. And that's a great point. Do you want to take that question from Danielle? Great question there.
Okay. What would be the role of companies in terms of promoting adaptability? So a company So I don't know if they will seek out those people who are adaptable. They won't promote it, but they themselves will have a culture of adaptability. Meaning, for example, they had to pivot so quickly and adapt when COVID happened and get everybody to go home. They had all their leadership team, I know for a fact, worked round the clock to ensure that their teams were supported. So it's not necessarily a company, it's the people within it that need to all individually be adaptable and have a growth mindset. Now, not every company at the top has a growth mindset.
Yeah.
And I don't know if you'd want to work there because, then it becomes a challenge because you're
That's
like,
a
oh
very
God,
good
they're stuck in the ages.
That's so right. And you know what? Coming to this, okay, and I know I work with a lot of job seekers, and what I hate right now is these companies on the, when they're actually making people apply online, and they have like such a
Oh,
bad process, old process where you are supposed to put everything together once you upload the resume, cover letter, and then you're supposed to write it, and you're supposed to give references and, like, what are the things you did well and would you different, all the stories, bunch of nonsense. And I feel like these companies have not evolved. They're
yeah,
not become adaptable. It's a system issues, and they're
yeah,
willing to just, go like, if someone wants the job, they need to spend 6 hours actually submitting the applications. And I
yeah,
think you need to watch out. Do you want to work for those companies? These are, I'm sorry to say that, these are government, these are public sector, these are academic institution as well. They need to know so much better. And this is how you know when you want to get into those company, do I want to work here? Because look at too many red tape there, right? So
yeah.
the follow-up question is there, I think.
Oh,
My
Dan,
second question, yeah.
how do we balance being ambitious with the view of under promise and over deliver in light of adaptability? So, for example, okay, that's a good question. Very well thought out, Daniel. So, I will, like, say, for example, if you're in a sales role, sales and marketing, oh, well, a target is X. I would not recommend that you say, oh, I can do 3X. Say, my intention, and I have done this before, I can hit this and this target. My goal, though, is to hit more, but I don't want to overpromise. I can tell you I can do this. Or if that's sales and marketing, what kind of Shweta, Daniel, what kind of job you want to pop it in there that you'd be is your kind of category? So, and being adaptable, if you can always show that growth mindset. So, like, if you're, say, pharmaceutical executive from another country and you want to come here, so then you can say, yeah, I've led this and this team, and I was able to learn things because I was in automotive before. I was able to learn a whole new sector, and I can bring that same ability to learn new content into this role or into this country. So you're saying factually, never oversell. Don't over promise, because then radars goes off with the recruitment, and we're like, okay, you're giving me interview speak, and we don't believe it.
Jonah has really good point.
So don't you think adaptability cuts across a range of spheres? Yeah, ranging from the new work environment. Yeah, and yes, yes, it totally it cuts across many areas, and there's so many dimensions and sub-dimensions. So, I mean, new country, wow, if you're from a hot country coming to Canada, you're just physically adapting so much, mindset adapting. You've left maybe a big extended family, and maybe you're here by yourself. So there's so much change happening, and then you get a new job, you're adapting there, you're having a real positive growth mindset there. So there's so many dimensions and sub dimensions within this framework. So it's a big topic, and to touch on so much of it in this time, it's a lot. But you're 100% right. It depends what spectrum you're looking at. um And I can tell you, like, regardless of where you are seeking to be adaptable, having the right mindset, that growth mindset impacts every decision you make, right? Whether it be country, work, your cubicle, it doesn't matter. That mindset impacts everything else.
Devika has a question. Very good one. Go ahead.
Yeah. So how to adapt in the same company, in the same department, but a new manager. Oh boy. Yeah. Who wants to unlearn and follow his type of management? How's being agile? Okay. So agility is about being quick and fast. Okay. It is a part within adaptability. That's a great question. Consider adaptability the umbrella, and one of the spokes, one part of it is agility. That is being able to do it quick and fast. So the new boss, that's a tough one. So I would ask you to consider to look, and easier said than done. Okay, so let me preface that. So let's remove ego from the equation. And let's just say I want to look at things through his lens. Why is his management style like this? And why is he leading in this manner? And it may not be what you're used to, right? Because you might have really liked the other boss. But let's look at it from the other person's lens. The way you can adapt is to see what motivates that boss and adapt yourself to be your best self in this condition, as long as it's legal, moral, ethical, right? Of course, right? So legal, moral, ethical, but adapt, because maybe they're more autocratic. Maybe they're not the warm, fuzzy types. So they're task orientated. So, okay, with this boss, you need to just show a list of completed tasks in a timely manner. Maybe they don't like chitty chat. That's how you're going to adapt yourself. Get the task done and communicate in the style that they want. And that's a whole other subject. When I talk on communication styles, that's a whole other.
It's like we can go on and on. And you
yeah,
know what?
when you know their temperaments and how they like to communicate, that's how you'll know how to adapt to them.
That's so true. And that brings to the point where every leaders are different. And I know we're not taught to, like, how do you coach certain type of people? But yes, I did some courses, but like, do I apply in the real scenario? You would forget about the courses and you deal with it. You deal with it when you come across, right?
Yep.
And even in the interview as well, when you're sitting down in an interview, some interviewers are like cutthroat. They don't want to talk about how is your day, like chit chat, small talk. They just like straight, bam, bam, bam. The other one, you would know, try to adjust to their personality and pick that temperature in the room. And this is where we go wrong when we're talking to the people. You gotta go and then put the personality together. What do they like? Do they like numbers, data? Talk about data. Do they like to talk about personal things? Talk about that as well, right? So, and this happens in the leadership world as well, where everyone is different. Even though as a leader, we're taught to adjust to people's direct reports' personality. It's really hard for us. We are struggling too on the other end. Like when we get the new member, we honestly are struggling. Like, how do I manage this person? What would this person think about me? What works, right? I think understanding, to Sangeeta's point, is, how would your boss want to be communicated? First, you got to figure it out, and it takes time to understand it. And that's a great point. I really have a good question here. And
can I just finish one comment there?
Yeah, go ahead.
So, and when you're in the time that you're trying to figure out your new boss, listen to their rate of speech. So if they speak slowly, methodically, don't speak like Shweta and I do, like with a lot of rhythm and a little faster, because they are slower, methodical. And so try and bring your pace down to match your boss. So think of mirroring and matching when you're trying to understand how to adapt. That's just a really quick 30-second point there.
Awesome. That's very good. I speak fast,
So do I. That's South Asian thing.
I think so. Okay. Shamim really had a good question. What do you think? What are the tips?
Where's Shamim? Where's the question?
On the screen.
Oh, yeah. Is it true that some people take credit for your work? And what can one do about it? Yeah, people take credit for work, and you know what? We can't do anything about it. Let's just keep doing the work. And you know what? I always believe what goes around comes around. And
Okay, I have a suggestion. I have a different way. So it has happened to me in a world that I came in as well. When you have that idea and someone else comes in, it's like, well, we talked about this, right? So you don't get the credit. Actually, that happened to me with my, like, my boss as well, where I did everything. And then all of a sudden, when the email went out to the executive VP, my boss copied like just me and the teams, like, we did this. I'm like, no, there's no we in there. I called him out. I said, can I talk to you? And I said, who was we in there? And then you know what the boss said to me was like, when we do these things together, it's we always. I'm like, no, this is not we, this is me. And you know what? I like to get the credit for it. I was like, seriously, no, sometimes you gotta, and depends on the relationship with your boss as well.
Yeah,
right? I was blunt with it because I've had it. I'm like, no, this is not we. There's no we on it, right? So sometimes you got to put them separately. And you know what I did later on was I emailed everybody who was copied on that email. I kid you not. I said, you know what? If you haven't, that was great working in this project. If you have any questions, please reach out to me. And thank you so much for this opportunity. So people have to know. And like, honestly, because when you go on to that level where people start to take credit for it, you got to learn how to manage up.
Actually, what Shweta's saying is right. And it's especially, and not to have a bias here, but especially women, because a lot of times women do a lot of the behind the scenes, and then the greater team could take the credit for it.
Yeah.
So what you're saying is right, but I still will I will still go a little bit on the direction that I trust what goes around comes around. If you plant good seeds, but you do have to own your work. What Shweta's saying, that's why you're such a big success, because you own it.
I've learned it the hard way, because I was the same way as
it.
well. I'm going to continue, put my heads down. You know what? I'm going to work on the background. And when I found out that people were taking credits and stuff, I had to step in. And you know what? The best thing that works? You know what? The best thing that works for all those people out there who are actually trying to adapt to that leadership where they don't give you credit, the best thing is to be surrounded yourself by the influencers and advocates. So when you're not in the room, you already talk to them about your idea. That's what I did. So they're like, oh, that was Shweta's idea. So they are the people who's going to defend you. And I was so lucky to actually be part of that team. They gave me credit and they came back to me, well, you know what, weren't you not talking about it? I'm like, oh, thank you. You know what I mean? So you don't even have to go there and defend your work. So surround yourself by advocates and let them go behind your back and support you. What do you think?
But your strategy, and I want to preface it, will only work though when you have done the work. You have that work ethic. People know your mindset. You're positive. And you have poured into others, meaning you have spent time genuinely uplifting others, serving others, doing other things just humbly without any expectation of anything. You're planting good seeds. And then when you're not there, you have advocates like Shweta's saying.
That's amazing, right? So like, keep working hard. So we go back to keep working hard, and someone will notice you someday. And that's when you all have that, credibility. So even if you're not there, people are there to just, defend you. And that's a great point. Oh my God, we went above and beyond, and there are a lot of questions. Let me see if there's any questions at all. Devika, thank you so much for tuning in.
You guys are awesome.
I'm going to take one last question. Go ahead.
Oh, from Kenya. In times you find a supervisor who's not ready to adapt to new suggestions, how can one adapt in such an environment without necessarily quitting? Yeah, you know what? That's tough, because especially when it's your immediate supervisor, they can block you, right? From going to a manager, director, or VP, they can block you. And so that is a challenge. This is where winning over. So there's a book called Winning Without Intimidation. And I forgot who wrote it, but it's a great book, Winning Without Intimidation. Because your actual thing where you will have to adapt is because you will have to adjust your personality to win over the supervisor. So we have to, again, like I spoke with the other girl, look through their lens. Why are they not willing to go forward, say with technology, or forward with diversity and inclusion, or just a more open mindset? Wherever you have the opportunity, without ruffling any feathers, try to get to a manager, director, and above.
Oh my God, I was going to say that. Go on, we're so
Right,
alive.
because we don't want that team leader or supervisor to block you, right? Because they can. So sometimes you just kind of push it over and let people know without complaining, without being negative, but just being positive and giving your suggestions. That's it. The more you have a reputation for having a positive mindset and not a complainer, but someone who wants to make positive change, the more people will listen to you. Right?
That's amazing. Because, oh my God, like I was going to recommend that as well. It has happened. It happens to all of us, right? And I think I realize when my managers are not, let's say in a corporate world, when they're not agreeing to what I'm proposing, it's normally what's in for them. So when you find out, like, what's there, like, how do you get, when you start working with a particular leader, there are some leaders, they're going to put everything like, no, no, no. But like, how do you turn that into yes? Is my strategy was I would have a skip level meeting with their boss and their boss's boss. And I would strategically put it in there, here's things I'm working on it. What do you think? Would I get your support? Yeah. Right? So instead of me going to my boss, it would go from their bosses. They can't say no. And so honestly, that worked the wonder. And I think I learned that I didn't even know that I was strategizing it. I wanted to get it done. And it worked the wonder for all. It was a win-win situation. Again, you said, I'm not complaining about my boss. I'm not even telling his boss's boss saying that I've already talked to my boss and he didn't like it. But I'm putting a strategy together. How do I get the buy-in? Do you like it? All right. So let them do the work.
And the thing is, always be positive. We don't want to be cunning. We want to have all positive attributes, right? And that's all part of mindset, mental flexibility. Working. No, who's that? No.
You said the book, right?
Yeah, work.
Work Without Intimidations. You said there's amazing book.
Did I say it Work Without Intimidation? No, it was
Was it? I don't know. So that's a book you said.
No, I don't think it was something with I said it then, I forgot it now. I'll find it. Winning. It's Winning Without Intimidation.
Oh, Winning Without Intimidation.
Yeah, okay. Winning Without Intimidation. Okay. It's a great book because, to win, you don't want to win and make someone lose.
That's true.
Right? You don't want that. And you don't want anyone to feel bad. You don't want to step on toes. You don't want to do anything that's not legal, moral, ethical. You always want to do things where you can continue to grow, but keep your head up high in a humble manner, always willing to grow. Because then you grow in your career, but you also grow in life. And how you walk through life dictates how you truly succeed. It's not just about a silo of a job. It's about the total success.
That's right. And I love that. So okay, what are you working on right now? What are your next project? And what are you recruiting on? What type of role that you normally recruit from your company?
Well, right now there's quite a few. I have some marketing roles. I have some business to business sales roles. This all in Toronto.
Is your expertise in contact center, Sangeeta?
Yeah, and I do. Yeah, that's my areas: contact center, customer experience, anything that works with people. So it could be contact center, it could be face-to-face, but anything around customer experience, employee experience. So my training and development is all in the employee experience side. So that's why when I say how you walk through life and your commitment to creating meaningful human experiences will influence everything else.
Absolutely. Well, it's been, great. We went I thought
a little bit over.
A lot of good questions. A lot of good questions. A lot of good questions, though. I love those questions. I know. Thank you so much for watching, all of you. And how can people be in touch with you? How can people in touch with you if they have any follow-up questions?
Yeah, sure. I'm on LinkedIn. So connect with me. So you'll see, just pull up my name, Sangeeta Bhatnagar. My practice is sbglobal.ca. Like samboyglobal.ca, sbglobal.ca. But connect with me on LinkedIn. Happy to chat with anybody.
Perfect. Thank you so much.
Thank
And
you
for
for
those of
having me.
you, thank you so much. It was great. And for those of you who are thinking like, you know what, my company is not adaptable. My boss is not like, my boss is not adaptable. Maybe it's time for you to actually get that promotion, go somewhere else. And if it doesn't work within the other department, if it's a company culture or, you know what I tell people is, you know what, go where you are celebrated. That's where I can help in.
Yes.
Booking an appointment right there, appointment calendars there. Let's see if we're the right fit, and I can help you navigate how do you have an exit plan strategy as well. Let's go ahead with that. And if you want some free resources when it comes to job search blog, go to teachindu.com. There are like a bunch of blogs as well. How do you optimize the LinkedIn? How do you do the resumes? How do you prep for the interviews and everything? There are a lot of things. Please make sure you subscribe to our YouTube channel as well if you want to continue to see these kind of live. I bring amazing guests, and I'm working on like fantastic guests going. It's going to happen, and you will love those guests as well. So reach out to Sangeeta, give us a feedback as well. And for everything that we're doing right now, it's all for you. And thank you so much for watching. Sangeeta, it's been a pleasure.
Thank
And
you. Thank you. So much fun.
Take care. Bye-bye, everybody.
I wish all of you the most luck and so many blessings on your endeavors as you move forward.
Thank you.